A recent Washington Post editorial argues that showing kids how to perform kinky sex acts will actually encourage self-expression in children. Isn't that kind of like arguing that showing kids how to work a heroin needle is encouraging bodily flexibility? I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and it's a sad world we live in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today's show is sponsored by Mike Lindell and our friends at MyPillow. For more than 15 years, MyPillow has been producing some of the most comfortable bedding in the world. But did you know they also sell Egyptian cotton sheets of the highest order? These ultra-soft, extremely durable sheets come in a whole range of colors and sizes. And right now, just for our audience, the Dr. Duke Show audience, you can get 2 sets of Giza sheets for the price of 1. Simply use the user code Dr. Duke. That's DRDUKE. Again, use that code DRDUKE to save lots of money at MyPillow. All right, today we start with a look at our declining culture, as a mom actually boasts to taking her tiny little children to a gay pride parade, and when gay men start engaging in sadomasochistic behavior, she sits the little kids down, makes them watch, and then proudly explains to these children why kink is necessary for pre-elementary schools.
This is coming from Lauren Rawello, who's a writer who's based near Philadelphia. But of course, this was published in the Washington Post.
The Washington Post.
Between that and New York Times, they're just garbage
Do you
pieces.
remember, you're too young to remember when G. Gordon Liddy of Watergate fame,
Correct.
when he had his own radio talk show syndicated across the country, and whenever he mentioned the Washington Post, he said the Washington beep every single time.
It's cursed.
He cussed it out, and every single time they bleeped it out.
All right, well, Lauren decided to write a piece titled, "Yes, Kink belongs at Pride, and I want my kids to see it." There it is. Yes, kink does belong at Pride, and I want my kids to see it.
I want my little kids to see men whipping each other, torturing each other.
She said she saw dozens of kinksters.
Kinksters.
Here's what the writing says. When our children grew tired of marching, because they were marching, not just walking, they were marching, we plopped onto a nearby curb. Just as we got settled, our elementary schooler pointed in the direction of oncoming floats, raising an eyebrow at a bare-chested man in dark sunglasses whose black suspenders clipped into a leather thong.
Now, why would you need suspenders to keep your thong up? Just
that sounds like something you would know.
This is one of those wardrobe malfunction things that I'm tempted to Google it, but I'm afraid of what I'm going to see.
Maybe because it's playing into this next part about the man paused to be spanked playfully by a partner with a flog. Maybe the suspenders, you can also use it. Kind of like pull on. Anyway, what are they doing? My curious kid asked as our toddler cheered them on.
Little toddler.
The pair was the first of a few dozen kinksters who danced down the street, laughing together as they twirled their whips and batons, some leading companions by leashes, like dogs. At the time, my children were too young to understand the nuance of the situation, but I told them the truth, that these folks were members of our community, celebrating who they are and what they like to do.
So let me see if I understand this correct. We're told by the gay community that we must treat them as kings and queens and saints while they're treating each other like slaves and dogs. Is that pretty much where we are? Can I drop the mic and move on now?
You could. You really could.
Unbelievable.
Well, the experience was a teachable moment to educate our children on self-expression and the importance of the freedom that LGBT activists have fought. That's what she said.
This is what the whole struggle of LGBT is the right to dress like spoiled children and beat each other up and whip each other and to pour hot candle wax on each other's genitalia. This is the hard one. I remember when the soldiers of World War II came back to America and after a hard-fought battle against Nazism, actually got the GI Bill, went to college. And after the long-suffering struggles of gay kinksters everywhere, the ability to flog each other in next to nothing in public streets, that's their triumph. Okie dokie.
I thought you were going to go from GI Bill to G string. I thought you were going to kind of tie that together. Nope.
G-strings.
Fine.
G.
Anyway.
So, well, never mind. I'm about to get myself in a lot of trouble.
You are. Lauren decided, you know what? I know more than even you, LGBT community. And for any of you who say that it's bad, even LGBT community members,
so
normal adults,
about half the crowd didn't want to see it.
Hey, like, you shouldn't have kids here showing kink in these parades. It's not about this. But she says, I agree that pride should be a welcoming space for children and teens, but policing how others show up doesn't protect or uplift young people. Instead, homogenizing self-expression at pride will do more harm to our children than good.
So listen to her argument. As a mom, I could protect my kids from bad things, but then how will they come to understand there are bad things in the world?
Well, when my own children caught glimpses of kink culture, they got to see that the queer community encompasses so many more non-traditional ways of being, living, and loving. And again, we bring in the argument, pedophilia.
Yep.
Is that okay then?
Well, I think
Mom,
they would argue
okay with
yes. I think love is, that's why you have that stupid bumper sticker.
Love is love.
With the little yellow equal sign, right?
Oh, that, yeah.
One of the dumbest philosophical statements you could have. The bumper sticker logic by definition is silly, but that little blue background with that stupid yellow equal sign, the idea that all love is the same love is ridiculous.
Now,
it's ridiculous. Hitler loved the German people. What did he do to them? Mm-hmm. The average child molester loves, quote unquote, the child who he torments.
This is true.
You want to pretend that all love is the same. Well, this is just so how anti-intellectual all of these social justice positions are. They're not logical. They're not debatable. They're not at the core of them critically. They don't pass critical muster, and yet you can't tell them that because yellow equal sign.
I've been in a vehicle with him when he's seen a yellow equal sign, and I feared for my life. I thought we were going to get in an accident. He has road rage like no other when he sees that yellow sign.
Yeah,
anyway,
it does kind of flip me out a little bit, I must say. Smidge. It's just the worst kind of pandering pseudo philosophy, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, Lauren, one more quote from her. She says that.
You mean Mom? Mom of these little toddlers who she dragged to a Kinkster gay pride parade?
She says that kink embodies the freedom that pride stands for, reminding attendees to unapologetically take up space as an act of resistance and celebration, refusing to bend to social pressure that asks us to be presentable. That's a value I want my children to learn.
Yeah, now can I ask one of those rhetorical questions that no one's going to be able to want to answer? Mm-hmm. So you're telling me now that you could, as a mom, could drag toddlers to watch kinky sex acts on a public street. That's good parenthood to the left. But if you are a mom who won't let her 7-year-old get hormone therapy to transition, you're a bad mom.
Correct. I think our friend Lauren would agree that sex work is the best work, at least according to Ottawa adjunct professor.
Ottawa, Canada.
Those Canadians just, ugh. In Ottawa, an adjunct professor said that sex work on the side, it's the best thing that young people can do when they're early in their careers.
So an actual professor is suggesting that don't go right into the workforce, don't take an entry-level job.
No, you're doing that. It's
sex work.
On the side.
Do sex work.
On the side.
Right. That's
while you're early in your career. This is according to Naomi Sayers, an adjunct professor and an attorney. So she went on Twitter and she blabbed and she says, unpopular opinion, : we always like putting colons in things. The best thing young people can do early in their careers is do #sex work on the side, because your early career prospects will be unstable, unpredictable, low pay, likely contract work, and very much exploitative.
Wait. So she says you should do sex work
on the side
when you're young because all other jobs are exploitative.
Yepper deppers.
So locking yourself in a booth with half-dressed naked old men, that's not exploitative. But taking an entry-level job as an assistant manager at Wendy's is. Okay, the world has literally lost its mind.
Yes. Well, she also decided she'd invoke capitalism into
there
this
you go.
discussion. That's how capitalism works. People out here saying young people can be exploited in sex work. Literally, that's capitalism. LOL. And quite literally, that's any kind of work. Also, if you really want young people to not be exploited, provide them with livable wages, access to safe housing, clean water, free education. Literally, period. I am not done. I am still, she is still
continue
tweeting.
your list of important things.
Literally, period. Abolish capitalism. Actually abolish prison, but whatever. She's a lawyer and an adjunct professor, and this is how she talks, writes.
There she is.
Yes.
Yeah, with a face like that, it's easy to see that she's not going to subject herself to sex work.
Yes. But the best part of this whole thing is that she has a publicist.
Oh, there you go.
And the publicist for Sayers said that, or Alex Krause, by the way, is the name of the publicist. Alex Krause said, Naomi is in no way, all caps, promoting or suggesting that anyone should pursue sex work.
She just said they should.
Her point was to facetiously criticize capitalist society. To quote her initial tweet, early career prospects will be unstable, unpredictable, low pay, likely contract work, and very much exploitative.
All right, let's flip this around. Let's do exactly what she just did to socialism.
Okay.
Young people, before they begin their careers, they should start by becoming working slaves in Chinese gulags. Because, I mean, that's socialism, right? Hey, go make Nike tennis shoes for 10 cents an hour and work 18 hours days. Because that's, isn't it? Socialism. Then I get my little colon, right?
Put your colon.
And I get my list.
You got to do unpopular opinion,
right?
Colon. Yes.
Now, get rid of socialism because it enslaves people. It brutally murders them. It enslaves children. That's just socialism. LOL.
Well, our friend Naomi.
I didn't even need a publicist to turn that table.
Alex had more to say about what Naomi's intent was. She said, basically, Naomi's lived experience of stigmatization in the legal realm is telling, considering the massive investment that she made personally and financially to pursue a legal education. So she's just trying to spin it like, really, this isn't what she meant, and what she's talking about was capitalism and this for-profit education, and she's spinning hard.
Let me just also
spinning hard.
Can I ask one more of those rhetorical questions?
I guess so.
That no one's going to answer, and we'll end the segment on one of those.
Yeah.
So you don't like capitalism, but you became a lawyer.
You're a lawyer. Kill all the lawyer.
Think about that.
Kill the lawyer. Well, let's end this day on a positive note, shall we? We don't get to end on positive notes too often, so when we do, I enjoy them. Someone else, Mr. Positive over there.
As long as it's just not sex positive, I'm with you.
It's not sex positive. Okay, we have Iowa students basically not getting the sex talk. They are not to be indoctrinated by Planned Parenthood in public schools because the Iowa Supreme Court told lawmakers that they could actually block Planned Parenthood from doing these sex ed programs in the public schools.
Iowa's been rocking it lately. I mean, Iowa's been making some seriously great decisions. And this is the Iowa Supreme Court who basically said the state of Iowa has the right to prohibit Planned Parenthood from being in our public schools. Why is this even a court case? Can I open an organization? Let's call it Americans for the Second Amendment, and then get $500 million a year from Congress for having this, and then walk into public schools all across the country and teach gun rights to kids? No, never let me happen in a million years.
Well,
however, you're Planned Parenthood. You get $500 million to promote abortions every year, and then you walk into public schools and start teaching our kids about sex.
And not only that, but they can get resources and actual, like, condoms and birth control and all that. So are you giving out bullets then? I mean, honestly, it sounds ridiculous.
My point is that
that's how extreme.
Name another thing like that where you could be a private organization, get all that money, and of all the money they get from government, they immediately turn all of it, half of it back in lobbying for Democrats.
This is true.
And then they're in how do they get to walk into our public schools and start teaching our kids about sex?
I don't think they walk as much as they sashay.
They sashay? Well, good for you, Iowa. That's good. Now, again, we know what's going to happen at a circuit. This will get appealed to the Ninth Circuit, and then the radical liberals will overturn it. And then the Supreme Court will refuse to hear it. Amy Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh will decide, no, conservatives went to the wall to get us on the court, but we're not going to listen to these cases. So that's probably where this is heading.
Remember when I said this is a positive story?
No, it's not positive.
I said it. Okay, well, this is a specific case.
Yes, it's a happy day for Iowa.
Thank you, Iowa. It actually overturned a judge's ruling last year that found a 2019 law passed by Republican lawmakers in the state to be unconstitutional. Now, writing for the court's majority opinion was Justice Dana Oxley, and Dana said the state could also be concerned that using abortion providers to deliver sex education programs to teenage students would create relationships between the abortion provider and the students the state does not wish to foster in light of its policy preference for childbirth over abortion.
And do you really think, and I mean, I know she's just stating the obvious, that's what law is, right? But it just, the idea that there is no conflict of interest between Planned Parenthood, who's teaching kids about sex and random sex and kinky sex, as we saw in the first story, that Planned Parenthood is up to their eyeballs in this stuff. Oh, and then, of course, what's the answer to kids who get in trouble? Us. Come to us to treat your STDs. Come to us for abort your babies.
My precious.
My precious.
Now, the lone dissenter was Justice Brent Apple, who argued that the bill is only intended as an assault on abortion rights. He wrote that the legislature, through unconstitutional conditions in these statutes, is trying to accomplish indirectly what it cannot do directly, namely attack abortion rights.
What does any of this have to do with Planned Parenthood, who's not an education organization, who does not have teaching credentials? What this is about is take Planned Parenthood agents walking into public schools and presenting incredibly controversial sexual material to underage kids.
Yeah, no.
Brent Apple falls far from the tree, Mr. Apple.
Ooh,
do you like that?
Sarah Stowes, who's the president and the CEO of the Planned Parenthood North Central, she said this is a major setback for public health.
Yes, public abortion
because babies will be alive.
Yeah.
And a disappointing day for young Iowans who have relied on Planned Parenthood for more than a decade to provide them with comprehensive, age-appropriate sex education.
Yeah, and why have they relied on it? Because Planned Parenthood took all of our taxpayer money and just walked into the schools and started doing it. And where were the teachers? And where were the principals? And where were the superintendents? They were abetting this, right?
And meanwhile, we have Monica Klein, who we've talked about before on the show, was a former Planned Parenthood sex ed instructor. So she knows exactly
what they're doing.
The manipulation and everything that they do. She said, she, by the way, walked away because she realized her eyes were open and she saw the light. She says that parents and their kids should be celebrating in Iowa today. Planned Parenthood's entire business model relies on separating kids from their parents, who are referred to as barriers to service. If Planned Parenthood is allowed in our schools, it means they are talking to your kids about sex, contraception, STDs, and their version of healthy relationships. Did you not just hear what the CEO of that Planned Parenthood had said about the health? And now it's the healthy lifestyle. You see how they just... Anyway, if parents don't connect with their kids and talk about the hard topics, someone else will. Planned Parenthood. And thanks to Iowa Supreme Court, it's not going to be Planned Parenthood, at least for now.
Now, can I ask one of those rhetorical questions that will end the segment and not get an answer?
No.
So Planned Parenthood is actually referring to parents as what?
Barriers to
service. Barriers to stop something from happening. In other words, Planned Parenthood actually looks at parents like prophylactics.
Yes.
Can you make this stuff up? Welcome, everybody, to Flag Week on the 4th of July week at the Dr. Duke Show. At this last segment, our instant classic, if you spend any time over the weekend watching what the left was saying about the American flag, you had second-rate actors, B-grade actors, you had sitting congressmen and women. You had activists just trashing the American flag, calling it racist, calling it a symbol of hate and exclusion. All of this was predictable, but I want to take some time here on Instant Classic to show you what people used to think about the flag before we became so anti-American and quasi-socialist. So this is Defending the Flag, Part 2. Take a look at some of these quotes. Here's a quote from John Wayne. By the way, full disclosure, I was named after John Wayne. You can see the complete resemblance, right? John and I are, we could be twins. I mean, if we were walking down the street together, you would not know who was who. All right. So, full disclosure, John Wayne said this about the flag. Sure, I wave the American flag. Do you know a better flag to wave? Bingo! Sure, I love my country with all her faults. Not ashamed of that. Never have been. Never will be, partner. And we have this from Henry Ward Beecher on the flag. Quote, if one asks me the meaning of our flag, I say to him, it means all that the Constitution of our people, organizing for justice, for liberty, and for happiness meant. Our flag carries American ideas, American history, and American feelings. The American flag was the safeguard of liberty. It was an ordinance of liberty by the people, for the people. That it meant, that it means, and by the blessing of God, that it shall mean to the end of time. Pretty darn good. Next. One more. Abraham Lincoln. Unfortunately, this rhetorical question came true. Lincoln wrote, I would rather be assassinated than see a single star removed from the American flag. And let's do one more. This is from former now dead President McKinley, who had his mountain taken away from him, right? The Obama administration took Mount McKinley and they stripped him from it. This quote alone should at least have a hill named after him, wouldn't you think? Quote, the American flag has not been planted on foreign soil to acquire money or more territory, but for humanity's sake. That's a great point. When the American flag has been planted on foreign soil. It is not for greed. It is not to take territory. We could have, after World War II, made the 51st state Germany. We could have made Japan the 52nd state. We didn't do it. And that's rare, not common in the history of the world. That flag means something that no flag in the history of the world has ever stood for.
All right, those are today's stories. If you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the mailbag by emailing askduke@fpeusa.org. And if you enjoy our content, please consider joining our Patriot Club. Your one-time $99 tax-deductible donation allows us to keep bringing you the crazy, crazy stories every day. All you have to do to sign up is simply visit patriotclub.us. That's patriotclub.us. And of course, as a little thank you, we will ship you our signature tumbler.
And that's going to do it for this show. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. Until next time, stay educated, my friends, and fly your flags.